let's do it with forced perspective, so they really look like they're there, and you can move the camera, and you won't have matte lines around them and all that. So I got to design a bunch of forced perspective shots, which was a great deal of fun. But Tibor and I worked on this for months, storyboarding it very carefully, so we could stick with a plan, and we had long enough pre-production time to have a good plan, So the shooting went very efficiently.
I had a wonderful time on it, and I attribute a lot of that to the rare ability that we were given, both of us, Randy and myself, to pretty much have our heads. We had a fixed budget, sure, but we were otherwise. I have a recollection of it as being pretty much hands-off. We were really allowed to do the best we could within those parameters, and that's not always the case. Often there's an awful lot of micromanagement that wasn't there, and I think often I have a prejudice in this regard, but I think often that difference can be seen in the final product. That if you aren't, second guessed, and somebody isn't constantly, let's put a little more salt in there, it can come out. You come up with a better thing. It's something distinctive that people enjoy and remember.
Craig built the suits, the Minion suits, based on a maquette that I'd done and some very meticulous drawings. Every wrinkle has to be just so, And since it was a modestly budgeted picture, we decided we needed to, we could play these little characters as just, basically not sort of dumb and immobile. Play the tabula rasa, play the just have them staring dumbly, so that's what we did. We had one that was mechanized a little bit, but that was hardly used. Mostly they were just slip cast rubber heads filled with urethane foam, and worn by the stunt people.
Why to costume these kids? They got volunteer kids to get in these costumes, and it worked. And they were lovely kids. I mean, I'm talking about young adults, obviously, but I mean, they were very cooperative, but they weren't actors, they weren't mimes, they weren't nothing. They weren't dancers, they didn't have any particular background, so it was sort of a shamble around, and they really had to be coached. Now, a little bit more like, do this, now do this. Randy, who directed them mostly in the second unit, really had to, come on, get a little bit of character into what they did. I was influenced in doing The Workman by a book I had seen. I think Rick Baker and others had a copy of this thing. It was called The Bog People. And I thought, perfect, that's a good departure, something different. Typically, I looked upon this, generically speaking, as a zombie, of which there have been how many in the history of movies. So I thought, let's not have another zombie. Let's not just have another, with the bones around the eyes, so he looks like he's wearing, goggles and that bullshit. We've seen that and seen that. So I said, let's have some novelty here. I've subsequently got some feedback that other people liked that character because it wasn't hackneyed. It was sufficiently oddball, and we even had, in when I got up there, they'd had the costume lady had gotten something like old rotten overalls. I mean, he really did look like an old construction worker, sort of. So it was fun. I had an idea when he first came to life that when he first opens his mouth, something like dust should come out of him. Well, we thought, well, that's great, but how? And then I said, well, why don't we just have him take a drag on a cigarette? So when he first opens his mouth, this kind of something comes out, like some nasty, acrid old air. So that's what he did. Randy had one wonderful shot where this workman character is confronting the girl, and she's initially horrified to look at this guy. That's bad enough. But I think she throws a radio at him, hits him right in the face. And he goes, boy, and he reels, and he just pancakes out. He goes, bam, he hits the floor. And as soon as he hits the floor, he turns into a bunch of minions that scramble around and stand there glowering at him.
we did was this. We built a room with a little piece by the wall where the kids could stand, and we had to wire Stephen and Krista up onto the wall from behind so they wouldn't fall and, you know, hold up production. And so we had them wired in and looking terrified, and they were like 12 feet in the air, so they probably were.
We had a replica of the workman. It isn't the actor, because Carl wasn't willing to, you know, dead fall on his face. So we had this thing where the head of it would hit a wooden stand that you couldn't see, but it essentially was falling into space. There was nothing below him but space, down to the stage floor, and then out where the continuation of the bedroom set was constructed with the actors all in their minion costumes, not at first. So the character falls forward, bam, and then it's cut.
Now we've got to shoot the minions. What to do? Well, we had an easel in front of the camera. We put a sheet of glass in there, and I traced off the outline of the workman, right? And so then we get the workman out of there, we get the C-stand out of there, and we start assembling the minions.
So that in essence, it's like in a football game where or like an old Busby Berkeley musical where a lot of figures make something else, you know, from an aerial view. Same thing. He filled the body of the workman in with minions, and he got them to crouch down. And he told them, when I give you when I say action, I want you to all leap to your feet and just start scrambling around. And then he had them all spotted for final spots where they would stop and look up, and he gave them an eye line. So you could barely see out of these things, but they did the best they could.
I think if I had to do over again, the only thing I do differently is roto some of the minions from the point of the break, so we could change their color and keep them more workman color, you know, for about 6 frames, you know. So the head would be flesh color, but the arm would be blue, you know, and the color of the coveralls, whatever the hell the colors were. But all in all, for what it was, I mean, it was a film unlike what was being done at the time, so it was a goofy effect and memorable, and people liked it. So, what the hell. The script ended with a great big monster, so I figured it was a chance to do a Harryhausen thing, so I figured stop motion was the way to go with that, you know, and I wanted it to really have a sense of size, and I figured that the best way to convey that is through intricacy of detail in the sculpture, and so I spent a couple of months sculpting that damn thing. It was sculpted with a good deal of intricacy. I think Craig actually did one arm, and then the guys making the mold actually screwed up one of his big hands, and so they re-sculpted that hand. But other than that, I did all the sculpting myself on the teeth and all that stuff. And you know, again, it looked like a slightly bigger puppet, I think, than it was. Now that it's going to be seen in HD, you'll be able to appreciate some of the intricacy of the sculpture that was sort of lost in the film. Although I think seeing it in 35, it nevertheless paid all those little wrinkles and bumps and leathery areas and things. All the detail was felt, if not actually seen.
I think the charm of the gate is that it is charming. I mean, these kids are very winning. And Steve as a kid was a lovely kid. Krista Denton was a delightful, sweet girl, and Louis Tripp was a sweet kid. All likable people. And the beauty of working with Randy is that he's just simpatico and bright. He wants to do something different. And I never really had to run a gauntlet with John Kennedy or Tibor Takic. They were, you know, particularly Tibor, lovely, you know, I mean, just very, very good, you know, it was sort of, you got a kind of a tacit sense of, you're the guys we wanted, great, you know, we're happy with the work.
all in all, it was a great experience because I got to go out and sort of prove to myself that I, was able to design scenes that, were memorable, and come up with a couple of, interesting creatures and interesting moments that it sort of reaffirmed my faith in myself, which was fun. So I think there was good work, and we were, happy to be associated with it.